Picture this. The clock's ticking down in a massive football match. Your team is 1-0 down. A key player just got sent off, red card, and then boom, a critical injury forces another substitution. Suddenly, your whole tactical plan, everything you worked on, it just collapses. Pure chaos. As the coach, your heart's pounding, the crowd noise is deafening, and every single decision you make right then, in those few seconds, could mean winning or just agonizing defeat. This isn't just about strategy anymore, is it? It becomes this high-stakes drama where all those careful plans just slam into raw chaos. So today, on the deep dive, we're plunging right into these moments, these critical points. How do you manage them? How do you maybe turn disaster into an opportunity? How do you stay cool when, well, everything around you feels like it's catching fire? And our deep dive today looks at a really fascinating concept, particularly coming out of Turkish football, the crisis coach model. This was proposed by Ali Kemal Yilmaz. Stick with us because by the end of this, you'll get the tactical side, sure, but also the kind of mental toughness and the sharp decision-making needed under pressure.
And honestly, these insights, they apply way beyond the football pitch. So let's try and put ourselves in the shoes of a technical director for a moment, the person overseeing the coaching staff, the long-term strategy. You realize pretty quickly the game isn't just about those beautiful planned out plays. It's a constant, relentless test of your mental strength, your resilience. And we're not talking minor hiccups here, are we? These things can escalate fast into real full-blown crises.
You're absolutely right. And what's interesting is that football matches, by their very nature, are just incredibly fertile ground for crises. I mean, think about it. A sudden goal against you, a red card, an unexpected injury hitting a key player, even a really contentious referee decision. These moments don't just, disrupt the flow of the game. They seriously challenge a coach's entire mental setup, their tactical preparation. The game is just so dynamic, so fluid, so unpredictable. It's almost like a perfect storm for these high-pressure situations.
Yeah, that unpredictability is key. So thinking about that, what are some of the most common, maybe most dangerous fire drills that coaches face? What does the source highlight?
Well, this source goes into several key scenarios, and each one brings its own specific challenges and risks. Let's maybe break them down a bit. First, you've got a score disadvantage, being 1-0 or maybe even 2-0 down. The immediate risk there, panic, pure panic, which often leads straight to disorganization, hasty decisions, players trying to force things. It gets messy.
Right, you see that desperation creep in.
Exactly. Then there's the red card. The big risk here is it completely messes up your team's area, sharing, how players cover different zones on the pitch. Suddenly you've got critical gaps and the opponent, well, they're ready to exploit them, leaving you wide open. Precisely. Then an unforeseen sakatlik, that's an injury, losing a key player unexpectedly. It severely limits your tactical options, your flexibility, and usually at the worst possible moment, right?
It seems to happen that way, yeah.
Then there's the hakim factor, the referee factor. This one's tricky. The risk is psychological collapse after what the team sees as unfair decisions. We've all seen it. A controversial call can genuinely break a team's spirit. Their focus just evaporates.
The momentum shifts completely.
Totally. And finally, the source mentions the tribune vibaska suru. That's the crowd and pressure element. Intense fan pressure, especially hostile away crowds, can significantly drag down the quality of player decision-making. Simple passes go astray, easy chances missed. All these situations, they demand immediate effective responses, not just, gut reactions.
It's intense just listing them. So, okay, think about how coaches usually react when that pressure cooker environment hits. Is it always calm, collected, strategic? Or does instinct just take over? We've all seen coaches pacing, shouting, sometimes completely losing it on the touchline.
And that really hits on a critical point the source makes. A major problem identified in crisis management, especially in Turkish football, but honestly it resonates everywhere, is how often decisions are purely emotional, purely reflexive. Coaches react instinctively, often making snap judgments without much prior structured thought. There's often a real lack of data being used in the moment and just a general unpreparedness for these specific crisis scenarios. It's almost like they wait for the fire to start before thinking about the fire extinguisher.
That's a really powerful distinction because gut instinct, okay, it's powerful, it has its place, definitely. But this source suggests there's a much more nuanced, a more effective way to handle decision-making under stress than just reacting.
Absolutely. The hybrid model for decision-making that's proposed in the source really captures this perfectly. It starts with database decisions.
Yeah.
It emphasizes how crucial real-time data is. Things like pass completion rates, running distances covered, who's controlling which areas of the pitch, getting that info to the technical team instantly. The core idea is that crucial in-game adjustments shouldn't rely only on intuition, but on hard, objective data that paints a clear picture of what's actually happening.
So bringing science into the heat of the moment.
Exactly. And this is important. The source also acknowledges that football isn't just numbers. It can't be. That's where says Gizzle Karalar, or intuitive decisions, come in. This is where the coach's experience, their feel for the game, their ability to read the flow and understand the opponent's psychology, that becomes critical. A seasoned coach's gut feeling, honed over thousands of hours, is still incredibly valuable. So the most successful crisis management, according to this model, is a deliberate blend. You need both, data and intuition. A modern technical director has to manage the game using both a scientific approach and an instinctive one, knowing when to lean more heavily on one or the other.
So it's not about choosing one over the other, it's about integrating them. And this blend, it's not just some clever football trick, right? It sounds like it taps into some fundamental principles of just effective leadership under pressure.
Precisely. If you look at the broader picture, decision-making theory tells us that performance under stress gets significantly better with preparation and experience. It's like building mental muscle memory for those tough moments. The crisis coach idea helps build that. And psychologically, you look at leadership. The leaders who really excel are often those with high emotional intelligence. That ability to manage their own emotions, understand others, it helps them stay cool, calm, collected when everything's going sideways. That's what this model aims to foster. Philosophically, you could even say a crisis isn't just a problem to be solved, but an inevitable test. A test of character, of leadership, and if you manage it right, it can actually be an opportunity.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. This crisis coach model from Ali Kemal Yilmaz. What is it fundamentally? How does it propose to systematically handle these huge challenges? It sounds like more than just giving someone a new job title.
It really is. The Crisantrenero, or crisis coach, is defined as a very specific, highly specialized role within the technical team. This is an assistant coach whose only job, their sole focus, is preparing for potential crisis scenarios and then offering alternative, often data-backed solutions to the head coach during those critical in-game moments. They aren't bogged down with the day-to-day training plans or the standard tactical setups unless it directly relates back to crisis preparation. Think of them as the team's dedicated emergency response coordinator.
Wow, that's a massive shift in thinking. So what does this coach actually do day to day or week to week that's so different from a regular assistant? Is it really a full-time gig or just an extra hat someone wears?
No, it's definitely designed as a proactive full-time role. The source outlines their core responsibilities pretty clearly. First, they proactively study all possible crisis scenarios before they happen, almost like a military strategist gaming out possibilities. Second, they conduct specific crisis simulations during training sessions, getting the team used to feeling that pressure in a controlled way. Third, they work closely with the data analysis team to develop detailed emergency plans for, well, pretty much every conceivable disruption. What do we do if X happens, if Y happens? And then, crucially, during a live match, their job is to provide rapid, well-thought-out solution proposals to the head coach. They essentially become the team's dedicated crisis brain.
Freeing up the head coach's mental bandwidth, I guess.
Exactly. It frees the head coach to maintain focus on the overall flow of the game, the bigger strategic picture.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. What about the potential downsides? Could adding another specialized coach risk, I don't know, creating too many cooks in the kitchen? Or maybe even undermining the head coach's authority right when decisions need to be made instantly?
That's a really valid point, and it's something the model seems to anticipate by how the role is defined. The crisis coach isn't there to shout instructions or override the head coach. Their function is strictly defined to propose solutions. Solutions based on their specialized prep work and the data. They're offering the head coach more informed options when time is incredibly tight and pressure is immense. The final decision. That still rests 100% with the head coach. It's designed to support and empower the head coach, giving them a safety net, a prepared voice in the chaos, not to challenge their authority. It's about adding structure, not conflict.
Right, structured support, not conflicting signals. That makes sense. So given that structure, the potential impact of this role, it seems huge, particularly for Turkish football, where the source originates, but really anywhere. How does this elevate the game beyond just having, one more person on the coaching staff?
The contributions could be really significant, yeah. Not just for Turkish football, but as a universal concept for any team serious about performing under pressure.
Oh.
First, it brings systematic order to moments that usually descend into disarray, into panic. Second, it promotes more conscious, informed decisions under pressure, rather than purely impulsive reactions. Third, it helps replace those gut-driven, unplanned responses with reflexes that are actually pre-rehearsed, strategic ones. They've practiced this. Fourth, and this is huge, it significantly enhances the player's mental toughness, their resilience. Because they've simulated these scenarios, they're less likely to mentally collapse when it happens for real.
Building that psychological armor.
Exactly. And maybe the most powerful benefit, as we touched on, is easing the burden on the head coach. It allows them to keep their focus on the overall game strategy, feeling secure that the potential crisis moments are being actively managed by someone whose entire job is to prepare for them.
This sounds amazing in theory, but
Okay.
okay, how do you actually train for the unknown, for chaos? What do these, Chris Tatbigatlari, these crisis drills actually look like on the training pitch? You can't just wait for the fire to start, right? You have to run drills.
Precisely. Practice is key. The source details some very specific practical training methods. For instance, simulation entraînement, simulation training. Teams would literally run game scenarios like playing from 1-0 down or 2-0 down, practicing the tactical shifts, the mentality needed. They'd also drill playing with 10 players versus 11 or even 9 versus 11, which, let's face it, happens more often than you'd think.
Yeah, red cards are part of the game.
Right. And then there are these Tribune Baskısı Antrenmanlar crowd pressure training sessions. This is fascinating. Imagine the team is training, maybe running through plays, and suddenly the club pumps in stadium-level crowd noise, maybe even hostile chants through loudspeakers. It forces players to communicate, to concentrate, to make clear decisions under immense auditory and psychological pressure, just like in a real high-stakes away game.
Wow, simulating the whole chaotic environment.
Exactly. And beyond the physical simulations, video analysis is critical. The crisis coach would spend hours studying footage. How do specific opponents react when they are in crisis? How do they respond to referee decisions? What patterns emerge? Learning from others' successes and failures. And then there's the crucial psychologic hazırlık, psychological preparation. This isn't just tactics, it's mental skills. Teaching players actual stress management techniques, breathing exercises, visualization, how to mentally reframe a setback, helping them maintain composure. It also includes maybe assigning specific Kriz Kaptanya, or crisis captain, roles to certain experienced players, empowering them to be leaders on the pitch, to rally the team when things get tough. It's about building a whole team culture of resilience, not just relying on the coach.
What a truly fascinating deep dive into some really innovative thinking in football strategy. It really brings it all together, doesn't it? Reflecting on that core message. Football, honestly, like so much of life, is just a series of challenges, of crises, big and small. And this crisis coach model, it's such a compelling example of how strategic preparation, that proactive mindset, isn't just helpful. It can be a total game changer. It empowers teams, and maybe us too, to face challenges head-on, sharpening our focus and decision-making when it matters most.
Indeed. And the source's conclusion really hammers this home. Crisis management is the ultimate test of leadership. Combining that thorough preparation, the smart use of data, and that essential intuitive intelligence, that's what transforms potential chaos into actual success. The crisis coach model isn't presented as just some abstract idea. It's framed as a concrete, almost essential need, particularly for the future of football. It really shifts the whole perception of crisis from something you just dread and react to something you actively prepare for, you strategize for. It helps teams not just survive pressure, but maybe even thrive under it.
So, a final thought for you, our listener, as you go about your week. Think about the unexpected challenges, the crises in your own life or your work. Maybe it's a sudden deadline, an unforeseen personal issue, a difficult conversation you have to have. How might applying a kind of crisis coach approach, really preparing for potential difficulties, analyzing the situation clearly, maybe having some pre-planned responses in your back pocket, how might that transform those moments? Could it shift them from something you fear into a genuine opportunity for growth, for success? Because maybe at the end of the day, crisis isn't something to just dread. Maybe when approached the right way, it's actually a doorway to victory. Until next time on The Deep Dive, stay curious.